Many of you who are listening to me now are possibly employed and wondering whether or not they should consider starting their own business, their own accounting practice, or their own bookkeeping practice. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how to start a business, the things you should be thinking about, and research you should be doing. The purpose of these channels is mostly focused on people who want to start an accounting practice or a bookkeeping practice, but in reviewing the things that I'll be discussing today, most of the information, if not all of it, would apply to whatever business you're considering on starting. So the advice and the steps and the things I think that you should be thinking about will apply for whatever business you might be wanting to start. So we're going to jump right in and give you a list of things. So I've got 8 things that I want you guys to think about, and we're going to go over this list. So the first part, I think, of being in business is to be very aware of the 3-legged stool. So I did a session not long ago on the 3-legged stool of a business practice, where we talk about having the 3 skills that are required, which is the technical skill, the marketing skill, and the management skill. So I would suggest that you listen to that video because I think it's important that you recognize how important those 3 skills are and that you develop those skills if you're going to become self-employed. Number 2 is I've got another video that talks about the 10 pillars that are required for successful practice. So most of those pillars that I talk about would apply to almost any businesses, and most of them, maybe not all of them, but the most of them would apply for any business. So again, I would suggest that you take a look at that video, the 10 pillars to a successful practice. So at the end of this video, we will provide you with the links of all the other videos that I'll be referring to throughout this presentation. The third recommendation that I recommend is that if you're going to start a business, talk to people who have been in business, and preferably those who have been in the same business that you're in. And I still remember, I've got a nephew who started a pizzeria in Brandon, Manitoba. And one of the things that impressed me, despite his very young age, I think he started his pizzeria at something like the age of 22. But what impressed me is how many people he had talked to before starting his business. And I have no doubt that that is the reason, despite the restaurant business being such a difficult business to be in, he had success. But I think the reason for his success is because of the research he had done before opening his doors. So he had met with a whole bunch of pizzeria businesses, some that had been extremely successful, some less successful, but even a few of them that had gone bankrupt, to try to discover what they had done wrong for them to have gone bankrupt. So I found it amazing how he was really going after the right people to find out the right information at the right places. And I think that is part of a key to success to starting any business. And I, being an accountant, helped tons of businesses start, and I'm always sometimes blown away by how some people will do tons of research and know what they're getting themselves into before getting themselves into it, where others are going at it totally blind. So if you're going to start a practice or an accounting business, an accounting bookkeeping practice, or any kind of business, do your research. Talk to the people who are in the know before you make all those mistakes that they made when they started out. One of the things that I want you to think about early on is whether or not you should start from scratch or buy an existing business. And that applies for any kind of business you're in. But it's probably, and what I'm speaking more of here is possibly if you're starting an accounting practice or a bookkeeping practice. Because let's face it, you could do it the hard way, which is what I did, is start right from scratch, no clients, no nothing, and you just build it up from there. It does have some merits, but it sure has its challenges. So before you make a decision of going one route versus another, I suggest that you stay tuned because I will be putting out another video in the very near future on buying versus starting from scratch so that you can weigh both options and decide which one is right for you. One of the things that I strongly recommend that you do is you really work on your personal characteristics for a person being in business. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that a little bit later on in this presentation. But also, we've got another video that's going to come out very, very soon on the characteristics of a successful person being in business. So I suggest you stay tuned for that one as well, because it's going to provide you with things that you need to work on if you're going to be self-employed, and the characteristics that I think successful people have. Number 6, what's something that a lot of people seem to not focus on whenever they're starting a business is just doing the proper projections, the things to consider. So how much money are you going to spend on equipment and on all of those things, on your marketing plan? So they seem to not have done proper numbers before you start. So I would consider you doing projections. Now, if you're struggling with how to do projections, I suggest that you communicate with an accountant or someone who's in business, who's already done projections, to help you do that properly. Because it is a skill, and I've done that with many clients, and it became very clear in helping them putting projections together is how ill-equipped most people are at putting projections together. Number 7 is probably one of the most important parts, is to invest. And where we often have problems with people who are starting in business is they are very cautious about every dime that goes out. And I suggest that be done, is that you're really careful with every dollar that goes out. But you're going to find that if you want to be successful, it really boils down to investing. So what am I talking about investing? Well, investing in yourself. Let's start there. So that means possibly paying a few dollars to attend the proper seminars and doing all of those things. So take the time to really invest in yourself, in all the things that you need to do to become smarter, better, and all of that in all areas. And the other thing is, don't be afraid of spending the money to invest in yourself. And because there's tons of free information out there, and by all means, you take advantage of that. YouTube, website, there's tons of information out there. But there are things that are better to spend money on to really get proper information. And if that's what you need to do not hold back. Because spending money on you is likely going to be the best investment you're ever going to make, because it's going to be with you for the rest of your life, and it's something that nobody can steal from you or kibosh or do anything. It's there forever. Invest in the proper equipment. And let's face it, you're going to get what you pay for. So I see people sometimes starting out and they're buying nothing but crap. So it doesn't mean that you have to buy brand new and all of that. That's not what I'm saying. But buy good equipment. So whether you're in an office environment or in a business, spend the time to research which pieces of equipment work well, and spend the money on good equipment. Spend the money on proper software. And that's the other thing that I find people often go around and buy the cheapest software that will just do the trick. But things I've discovered, and this is possibly more, I don't know, more true, but I'm more aware of in the accounting and bookkeeping industry, is that there's tremendous amount of difference between a really good software that will do all the things that you want and a software that doesn't. And often, yes, there might be a difference in price, but what you get back from a software that is really adequate compared to software that isn't is unbelievable. And the payback on the difference in price is unbelievable. So before you just invest in the first piece of software, research the software that are out there. So if you're going into an accounting or a bookkeeping practice and you're wondering what software to invest in, talk to other accountants and talk to other bookkeepers to see what software they're working with, and think about all the pros and cons of each software. And by all means, call me and I will give you some thoughts of the software that we've tried that really worked well, and give you our thoughts about some software we may have tried that were not quite as good. And we'll also be in tune as to what other people have tried and provide you some advice of even software we haven't tried, but what we've heard about them. The last part, applies probably more for an accounting and bookkeeping practice, but invest in your office supplies. So to me, it's always really important, because let's face it, if you're going to be in the accounting or bookkeeping business, they don't get a whole lot of tangibles from you. It's not like they're going to get a car or a desk or house or a piece of furniture that you can show, look at the great work we did. There's nothing tangible. So to me, it's important if I'm going to give a client a tax return on paper, a financial statement on paper, and all of that, and I know we're going more and more paperless and it's less and less tangible, but if you are going to give them handouts or something, make sure you invest and make it as nice as you can. So invest in your marketing products and how it looks and feels when you give it to them. Invest in the paper you're going to print your financial statements on, the covers and all of that. The difference in price between something that looks crappy and something that looks like $1 million isn't that much, and it will have an impact on how your services are perceived. So actually spend the money on your office supplies. It's money well spent. And for those of you who are completely paperless, you're going to say, well, I never give anything out on paper. Well, just maybe a few things. I think there's still something to be said about receiving something that is tangible. So where's the harm in possibly just giving them a mug that's really nicely done with your logo on it? So they do walk away with something that's tangible. And if you are going to send non-tangibles out through the internet or some which way or form, make sure that the colors are nice and all of that so it's still appealing, because they will still judge you on what they're receiving, whether it's on paper or visual on screen. So make sure everything they get always looks extraordinarily well, professionally done, and kind of pizzazzed. And finally, if you're going to start a business, invest in a proper marketing plan. Marketing is, I find, one of the more difficult areas in which to invest because the return on investment is often more difficult to calculate. So I suggest that you really line yourself up with a company that you feel is really in line with your core values and where you want to go and can help your small businesses. And especially if you're just starting out, usually your budget for marketing will be very limited. So this is where you want to work with a company that understands what it feels like to start from scratch, where you have no money, and tell you, okay, so you've got $1,000, we got to make the best of that $1,000. So I suggest we also have some videos on marketing, and some of those ideas for marketing are not expensive. Some of them, a lot of them are actually free. So obviously anything that's free, you take advantage of. But if you are going to spend money on marketing, make sure that whatever comes out of your marketing department is great. Great by the way it looks, feels, and all of that. So if you're going to prepare some ambassadors, and I call ambassadors those flyers that you prepare or documents or brochures about the businesses and the service that you offer, make sure that those handouts are really well done on the proper paper and not just a scrap piece of paper that you ran through your photocopier. Spend the time and do it well and do it right. And finally, number 8, consider getting yourself a mentor. So I've got another session on that as well, on how to select a mentor. But I am a strong advocate if you're going to be in business, the amount of errors you're going to make, and I guarantee you're going to make more errors than you never thought possible. I'm speaking from experience. God, I've made a lot of errors, and I don't know of a single business that I have not done unbelievably stupid errors. But a lot of these stupid errors could have been avoided if they, or when I was younger, had a mentor. Those people have already done all these stupid errors. So before you do things, why not contact someone who's been in businesses? Hey, I'm thinking about doing whatever, and ask them for their opinion. And those mentors, if they're good, they'll be honest with you and provide you with tremendous life-saving ideas, things that will save you tons of dollars, and whatever you spend on your mentor is probably money extremely well spent. And I look at the first 8 years I was in practice, prior to me having a mentor, some of the errors that I made and the things I did not do cost me a fortune. And had I had a mentor from day one, I think I'd be a lot richer yet today than I was, and it would have been a lot less painful. So I hope you found this presentation useful. A few things I would like to ask from you is, one, is there anything here that I've said that really struck a chord with you? And if so, please share that. And number 2, I'm sure I've missed something. Things that those of you who are in business are listening to this and saying, Jacques, you forgot to mention this, this, this. I have no doubt, and I'm sure I'll be done this video and I'll be thinking, I should have included this, should have also added that. So if there's anything that you think that I've missed as to things that you've learned in starting a business and you would like to maybe share with us, please do, because people listening to the video will likely look at the comments, and it's kind of nice that there's a few comments about things that probably helped you in starting your business. And by all means, probably those of you who are listening to this thing are mostly people who are starting a business. So if there are things, really burning questions that you would like to ask them below, because we'll be checking on our comments on a regular basis. So if you have anything of a question, please add it at the bottom, and I will be sure to answer those questions as promptly as I can. So if you like this video, please like it, subscribe to it, and always remember, make the best of every day and work on your business rather than in your business.